Wayne, we don't want to lose this opportunity, at least I just have to say. So, I've known Wayne now for 25 years. We've grown up together. He just looks a little older, but we are brothers. Sit down, Wayne.
What am I doing here? It was at the very last observation you made, Deepak, that the word love finally came in. And it's been my journey to learn to come to a new kind of love in my life. I have been reading a great teacher from Bulgaria whose name was Peter Dunov, of whom Einstein said at the height of his popularity back in the 30s that the whole world bows before me and I bow before Peter Dunov. Peter Dunov was a man who talked about a different kind of love. He said there are basically three kinds of love. One is human love, and human love is a love that changes and varies. So this is a love that I love you, but you came home late and you forgot Valentine's Day, so I don't love you so much. And it's constantly changing. I love you, I hate you, and on it goes. And then there's a love that he called spiritual love, which is a love that never changes, but it does vary. This is the love that I can only define as the love I have for my children. I have 8 of them, and it really doesn't matter what they do or how they behave, how they conduct themselves. The love is just there. I'm sure the people who've committed some of these atrocities that we've been experiencing the last few months here in America, the mothers of these people still love them. Having 8 children, I know that it varies. Sometimes it's a little stronger than others. But it's always there, and I'm sure you know that with your children, and I see Rita there, as we were talking about her children, your children. And then there's a love that Peter Dunov spoke about, which is a love that he calls divine love. And this is a love that never changes, and this is a love that never varies. And this is a love I aspire to. And the only way I can describe it, it's in the Gospel of Thomas, in the Nag Hammadi scrolls that were found in 1945. Jesus is quoted as saying that when you make the two one, then you can enter the kingdom. And the opening line of the Tao Te Ching, a book that I studied and lived and wrote a whole series of essays about, the opening line of the Tao says, "The Tao that can be named is not the Tao." And so I try to imagine a love that Jesus spoke about when you take the two and make it one. So this is a love that has no opposites. So if I were to ask you the word, if I said, what is joy? You're going to say, what is the opposite of joy? Most of you would probably say something like despair or sadness and so on. And if I ask you to imagine a joy that has no opposite, it's just joy. Or if I were to ask you, what's the opposite of love? We could come up with many antonyms to love. Try to imagine a love that has no opposite. That's all there is. Nothing else can come out. It's, I was thinking when Eckhart was speaking about what is it in us that, you're talking about happiness. And I was thinking, I don't use the word happy either. Shakespeare, in one of his plays, said, I think he said it this way, my crown is in my heart, not on my head, not decked with diamonds, nor Indian stones, nor to be seen. My crown is called content. A crown it is that seldom kings enjoy. And that kind of love is the love I aspire to. Contentment, a love that knows no opposite. Now we're talking up here about being human, and of course, we're all in human bodies, and making the two one is almost impossible for us. There's a woman here in the audience who I didn't even know yesterday that I was going to be here today. I just happened to be staying at a hotel nearby. I'm going to see my publisher tomorrow to do some recording, and then I'm going to Denver to do a workshop on the weekend, a writer's workshop. And sitting next to me on the table is Eckhart Tolle, my friend, a man who I've done a program with recently called The Importance of Being Extraordinary. And of course, to my left is a man who we call each other brothers. We've loved each other very, very much since the early 1990s. Like, I think it was 1990. So the idea that I was going to be here, I didn't even know this was going on. And, and Eckhart said, why don't you come? And here I am. And when I walked in, someone else walked up to me and said, Wayne, what are you doing here? And her name is Anita Morjani. Stand up, Anita. Where are you, dear? Right over there. And Anita, I have written a foreword to a book that of hers called Dying to Be Me. And she, I think she's speaking here. Are you speaking here tomorrow? On Friday here at the Chopra Center? Right, right. So Anita has described what it was like. I mean, she had end-stage lymphoma cancer for 5 years, was down to 82 pounds, had tumors the size of lemons throughout her entire body, and only had a few hours left to live. And became an observer and watched this whole process. And I saw something about her experience on the internet and located her in Hong Kong. She happened to be in Dubai when I found her, and I asked her if she would write her story. And she wrote her story and sent it to me to see if we could publish it. And I sent it back to her and said, it isn't good enough. I want you to go back to the state that you were in when you experienced the kind of love I'm speaking about here right now, a love that has no opposites. The words awareness have been tossed around up here, higher awareness. But in that state where there is only one, there is no opposite, whatever you place your attention on, you become. And the only thing that you can feel is a kind of unconditional love. So for me, as I aspire, it is to live a love that has no judgment, no criticism, no condemnation towards any of God's creations. And if we can get to that place, and while we are human, there will still always be the two. The dichotomy will always be there. There will always be the opposite. But in the world that Eckhart describes so beautifully in The Power of Now, we can do this inside here. In here, we don't have to have those judgments, those criticisms, those condemnations. And when we get to that place, because as many of you know, I was diagnosed with leukemia 3 years ago. And I had an experience of having a remote healing from John of God down in Brazil. Many of you, probably everyone in this room, knows who that is. And what I thought happened is that these entities entered into my body and they just healed me of leukemia. But that isn't what happened. What happened is that these entities entered my body and they took out fear. The word leukemia is loaded with fear. It isn't about fear of dying. It's such a word. It's just cancer of the blood. You know, everywhere going through your body. It's all of the things about cancer, the cancer that Anita spoke about so brilliantly in her revised edition of, which was done so beautifully. And so it is, I woke up the morning after I had had this remote healing from John of God, and two of my children were there with me on Maui. One of them was my daughter, and I looked at her and I had never seen her the way I had seen her that morning. And I put my arms around her and I just said, I just can't describe to you how much I love you. And I looked at my son and I put my arms around him. And I looked outside. I live on the ocean. The ocean looked different. I just had never seen it before. The palm trees just looked different. The birds, the grass, every stranger that I encountered. In the Course it says there are two ways of reacting. There's love and there's fear. And everything that is love cannot be fear. And everything that is fear cannot be love. So what I would ask you to do is to ask yourself how much of my life and the decisions that I make are based upon fear. Do you eat the foods that you eat because you're afraid that if you don't, you'll get sick? Or do you do it out of love? This is my body, this is the temple I live in, and I want to treat it that way. Do you drive the speed limit because you love everyone around you and you want them to be safe? Or do you drive the speed limit because you're afraid that if you don't, you're going to get a ticket, so you have a radar detector, and on and on and on it goes. And I could go on with these kinds of, you can almost look at almost every single thing that we do in our life, and so many of them are based on fear. And what Anita's experience was, when she was in the other realm, is that there is no such thing as fear. And cancer, and Deepak and I have done many programs on this. In fact, I remember in London at the Palladium, you and I standing up there one time asking that question, why so much cancer in our world? Why so much illness? Why so much disease? Because, you know, you used to always say it's perfect health, you know, that we don't, our bodies do not have to, there's nothing physically in there that says these bodies have to get older and they have to deteriorate and they even have to die. And if we could get the fear out of our hearts and just come from a place of no judgment, no criticism, no condemnation towards any of God's children, we could live what Shakespeare was speaking about. We could just be content. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And the fear, of course, perpetuates itself through judgments in the mind. And judgments are thoughts that we identify with, that possess us. So the key then is to disidentify from the judgments and to invite the place of no thought into our lives. Ramana Maharshi was asked by a disciple or a visitor in his ashram, how can we know that we are making progress on the spiritual path? How do we know that? And Ramana Maharshi said, the degree of absence of thinking is the criterion for progress on the spiritual path. So now you know whether you're making progress. The degree of absence of thinking is the criterion for progress on the spiritual path. As simple as that.
Well said, well said. One other observation, I've just spent the last 6 months or so in a secluded state of writing every single day. And I've written something called I Can See Clearly Now. And it's just a look back at all of the things that it's like, you know, so there's, look back at, I lived 10 years in an orphanage, and what did that result in, and all the way up right through just recently. And I think about how I happened to be here on this stage tonight with two people I admire so much and love so much. And
well, it was a synchronistic event brought you here because
yes.
You were sitting behind the table behind ours last night. It
right.
was just amazing.
Yes, to have you walk. So let's look at, this is just fascinating to me because having just written about all of this, like we were talking about, you were talking about time, both of you were talking about time earlier. And so I like to think that there's this thing called horizontal time. And just imagine a line going across here that represents time. And this is called chronological time, or passing time, or cause and effect time. So what got me here? I made a decision to go down to that restaurant last night to meet with my friend Mark and his daughter. I didn't even want to do that. I didn't. I was going to have them, normally I don't go down into restaurants because I run into people who So I was going to just have Mark and talk about the room and order room service, but something said go down there. So there's cause and effect. So Mark called me. I said, okay, I'm not sure, I don't know. And on how did I happen to get here, even to San Diego, that's a whole other story about why I'm even here. And you think that you're making all of these choices and cause and effect. So I did this, and that caused this, and that caused this. And then we showed up in the lobby, and then some young woman from Russia recognized me and wanted me to be on her TV show that she's doing. She's cooking raw foods. And I said, no, I can't do that. And then we went into the restaurant, and then came over. And I meet Stephen Goldhar, who is the brother of someone that I was in love with for several years back, who I haven't seen in a long time. And I see Greg, who worked at the Omega Institute, and whom I've known. And all of these people are showing up, and Eckhart comes over, and we just had a program that just come out, and all of this stuff is going on. So this caused this, caused this, caused this. And then he said, well, we're having this program tomorrow, would you like to come over? I said, okay, but I'll go in the back, you know, because I don't really want the spotlight to be on me. I want it to be on these two guys. This is, you know, this is their program. So I'll just come in. No, we want you to be in the front. We'd like to have, so here I am in the front. So
then I had the psychic experience.
And Deepak, my psychic brother, who knows everything anyway. So we've got this whole horizontal thing. This caused this, and I could sit down and write them all out, all the reasons how I got here tonight. I'd have to go back to when I was born in 1940, and when my mother was born in 1916, and how her mother, and you know, we could just go all the way up to this moment, and here I am, right? And then there's another kind of time. And this is a time that isn't represented by a horizontal line, but is represented by a vertical line. And this is a vertical line that goes right up to God, all right? And this line is called eternal time, in which there is no time. There's nothing but one. There's only oneness, okay? So everything in eternal time has already been taken care of. Carl Jung said at the same moment that you are a protagonist in your own life and you're making choices, at the very same moment, you're also the spear carrier, or the extra, in a much larger drama. You are all, he said, doomed to make choices. Now, you want to talk about a paradox, all right? You're doomed, that means it's all taken care of, and within that sense of being doomed, you're making choices. So now we've got this line going straight up, representing eternal time, So my being here right now was already handled. It was handled the moment of my conception. And but the point where this line crosses this line, and that cross is made, at that very point is where you can see both times operating at the same moment. You can literally see that you are making choices and they're already taken care of. Everything is taken care of for you. And so what Deepak and Eckhart have been saying is there is no need to worry about anything. It's all just taken care of. And even your worry is a part of the eternal time thing here. And here was the conclusion. This was from a book called To Know We Are Loved by Rashad Field. Do you know Rashad Field? Do you know that name? He's still alive. He's like To Know We Are Loved. He said, and this is the one I want you to walk out of here with and really think about. Your conception and your death are happening at exactly the same time. It's the same experience. When you get that, you can get back and you can see yourself making all of these decisions, but you can also see that it's all handled for you. And in eternal time, there's no opposite, which means there's no past and there's no future. There's only
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to conclude now this evening with just 3 simple observations out of this whole experience. The first is, every event is a conspiracy of the total universe. So go with the flow, okay? Second is that love actually does heal, and there's a biological reason why it heals. It creates what is called limbic resonance in your brain, and it starts self-repair mechanisms, what in medicine we call homeostasis. It takes you back to your original state, which is well-being. And the third is that the love he was speaking for is really so well articulated in the teaching of Nisargadatta Maharaj,
who you introduced me to and became my teacher, absolutely.
And he says, my love radiates from me like light from a bonfire, focused on none and denied to none. So good night and thank you.
Good night.